Councils across England are poised to take legal action to remove asylum seekers from hotels in their areas. It follows the High Court yesterday granting a district council a temporary injunction to block asylum seekers from staying at the Bell Hotel in Epping in Essex. Well, the government says it's carefully considering the ruling. Thousands of people have protested near the hotel in recent weeks, as our UK correspondent Nigel Farage now reports.
After weeks of protests in Epping, there was an impromptu celebration last night. The demonstrators felt they had achieved what they wanted.
Today's ruling is a seismic event. It will change everything going forward.
That's exactly what we wanted. We've been waiting a long time for this because it isn't just the weeks that we've been protesting. People raised the concerns 5 years ago with this hotel.
The local council had won the first round of a case at the High Court, arguing that the Bell Hotel was no longer being used as a hotel, as it was being used only to house migrants. The terms of the court order being celebrated here in Epping tonight are that all the asylum seekers must be moved out of the Bell Hotel by 4 o'clock on Friday the 12th of September. That's in 3.5 weeks' time. For now, it's only a temporary injunction ahead of a full hearing in the autumn, and not everyone in Epping is celebrating.
I think it's a bit of a shame, really, because to be honest, I've lived in the area for quite a long time and there's never really been any trouble from the hotel or the residents of the hotel until quite recently. So I think it's a little bit of a shame, and I don't know where the government will find to put them next, but hopefully it's somewhere safe.
It's not their fault, they try to, like everyone, try to make a living. They try to integrate into the country as well.
In court, Epping Council argued the change of use of the hotel breached planning laws, and the judge also took into account the fears of the local community.
I think people need to be calm and peaceful. That's the most important thing. And I wouldn't attribute to this a full victory. This is the beginning of a process. We've made an important stride forward today, but it's not the final victory. We have to keep working.
The case may set an unwelcome precedent for the government, opening the door to other councils bringing similar cases. There are around 200 hotels housing migrants, some of which have also seen protests. There have also been demonstrations such as in Nuneaton, where migrants are using other accommodation. The Border Security Minister, Angela Eagle, said, "We will continue working with local authorities and communities to address legitimate concerns. Our work continues to close all asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament." But opposition parties say the government must move quicker.
What really needs to happen is the government need to have the courage to set up or to restore the Rwanda deterrent that was ready to go, that would have stopped these crossings entirely, and then we wouldn't have the problem in the first place of having to accommodate tens of thousands of illegal immigrants, which is really what has caused this crisis to happen in the first place.
Well, maybe the government should do what the British people want, which is to process these people, reject their applications and deport them.
In the long term, ministers still have to try to keep their promise of smashing the gangs smuggling people across the Channel. But in the much shorter term, they need to work out where to put the migrants from the Bell Hotel. Daniel Sanford, BBC News, Epping.
Well, the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, says the government's considering alternatives for housing asylum seekers.
We're looking at contingency options for where those people can be accommodated, but we've never thought that hotels were a long-term sustainable solution for accommodating asylum seekers. That's why the government made a very clear commitment that we're going to reduce to zero the number of hotels that are being used to accommodate asylum seekers. Under the previous government, there were something like 400 hotels in use. We've driven that number down to 200, in part because we've very significantly increased the effectiveness and the speed of the asylum decision-making process. But clearly, we'll have to look carefully at the legal decision that's taken place in this case and come up with a contingency option and do that quite quickly.
Well, our political correspondent Joe Pike has this assessment of what might happen next.
Well, I suppose what happened yesterday in the High Court in London was an inspiration for some campaigners and some politicians, but clearly a headache for the UK government and for the Home Office. All eyes on one particular Conservative-run council, Broxbourne, which may follow Epping Forest's lead, but also a number of councils run by Nigel Farage's Reform UK are taking legal advice and working out what they could do. Certainly for the UK government and the Home Office, there are three immediate challenges. Firstly, what do they do with the 120 or so men who are in that Bell Hotel in Epping? They have just 3.5 weeks before this court-imposed deadline. Secondly, how will they handle possibly a lot of future protests outside hotels, which are difficult and expensive to police? And finally, how do they handle what could be a raft of new legal action, even though we should say there were a series of not dissimilar cases back in 2022, and there was nothing like the legal breakthrough we saw yesterday. Clearly big challenges for the UK government, but certainly in terms of the Epping Forest case, this is just round one. They'll be back in court, both the hotel owners and the local council, in a couple of months' time.